You're listening to the Belmar Bites podcast, brought to you by Belmar Consulting. Okay, Matt, here we go. We are
Afternoon,
on
Scott.
episode 9. We're episode 8, and maybe episode 9. We've got an interesting topic to cover here today, which is the Salesforce partner ecosystem, and how does a nonprofit organization go about selecting a Salesforce partner that they can lean on and trust and expect to deliver. So why don't we kick this one off? And
Let's do it.
why don't you kick us off with just I guess introducing the concept of what a Salesforce partner is and where we fit in the ecosystem.
Yeah, so I think it's helpful to start with definitions because partner can mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people. So we'll start with this. In the Salesforce land, in the partner land, there's something called an SI, systems integrator. There's something called an ISV, which is like a third-party vendor, and then there's Salesforce. So there's 3 parties, if you will. A Salesforce partner is typically tasked with customizing Salesforce implementation. They're responsible for taking an out-of-the-box solution, which is what Salesforce sells. They're the product company, and they would customize it. So the best analogy I like to give is house building. So the house builder is the person who's going to be customizing to meet the requirements of whoever's going to be living inside there. Let's say it could be 4 rooms, 6 rooms, 8 rooms, silver handles, 10 toilets, whatever that may be. That is like the systems integrator. They're customizing to meet the needs of whoever's going to be using and living inside that house there versus an out-of-the-box solution. So that's what a Salesforce partner is. They run alongside Salesforce, working hand in hand to customize, configure, tailor, really to be able to get it day one ready for an organization to be using Salesforce or their technology investment there. How did I do on that definition,
Yeah,
Scott?
no, I think that's a good summary. So you've maybe just to recap, you've identified Salesforce as the product side of the equation, and I guess when it comes to nonprofit, we've covered this on previous podcasts and in blog posts in terms of what options exist around products. So we're not going to dive into that. On the other side of the house, you've got partners, and those are comprised of consulting and ISV. So we fall under the umbrella of consulting. ISV, another way to think about that is if you were to go to the Salesforce AppExchange and you were to pick a product that would plug into your Salesforce instance, that would have been delivered by what Salesforce considered to be an ISV. So for the purpose of this conversation, we're going to be focused more on the consulting partner relationship. And I think you've summed it up in terms of the house analogy. I guess one of my favorites as well. It's a good metaphor for describing what happens within a Salesforce environment or a Salesforce org when a customer is hiring or contracting a partner to augment and implement that. So it's interesting. Over the years, we're actually coming up in September. We're coming up on our 15-year anniversary as a Salesforce partner, and through those, I guess what is currently 14 years, almost 15 years, we've worked on thousands of projects, hundreds of customers, and there's different ways that we've been put in contact with those organizations, but maybe we can start with focusing on organizations that are not currently using Salesforce, and they're considering. They're somewhere between identifying a problem within their organization and the other end of the spectrum is they're signing a Salesforce licensing contract. So at some point through that journey, they are going to most likely get introduced to one or more partners. And maybe we can talk, Matt, about just sort of ways that these organizations, these customers actually can find a partner? What are I guess maybe it's in the universe of options. What are the different paths that a customer can take to find a partner?
Yeah, so I'll speak about the nonprofit side of how would a nonprofit organization, let's go through scenario, nonprofit organization looking to make an investment in Salesforce, where do they start? Well, there's a couple channels. One, there's Salesforce's AppExchange, which is Salesforce's, think of it like the App Store for iPhones. It's a app exchange that allows you to search for a partner based off of experience, customer satisfaction rating, how many projects somebody has done. It's effectively like a marketplace. You can search. That's one way. There's the direct way where you can just Google, or today, maybe that's ChatGPT, find me a partner that meets this specific criteria. So there's independent research. There's another channel, which is in working with Salesforce, oftentimes they'll make recommendations as well, based off of who they know and they trust as well.
Yeah, maybe to recap, so they can go online to a directory, be that the App Exchange, be that Google, ChatGPT, Gemini, and any of the AI
Correct.
tools, which sort of hold that thought for a second and come back to that. They can also go through an introduction through an account executive, which I would say, over our 14-year history, the majority of new customers that we have been introduced to and then done projects for have actually come through the Salesforce channel. We would call it the Salesforce channel. That's being introduced from an account executive. And so maybe uh, just touching on, I guess, the evolution of how
Yeah.
customers are finding us. It's interesting. We've been, and Matt, you're aware of this. We've been doing a lot of work behind the scenes and just sort of
Yeah.
bolstering our content. Creating new content. One format is this podcast. We're writing blog posts. We're hosting customer events, doing customer dinners, all kinds of different things. Really, as a way to engage and interact with the market, uh, in hopes that we can provide some value to them through those various channels. But ultimately, if they're looking for a partner to go deeper with, that we hit their radar across one of these various platforms. It was interesting, just maybe as an aside. I was in the last couple of days just thinking about just the whole SEO game that has been played over the years of
Yeah.
trying to optimize for keywords and trying to get your push your ranking up on Google, because most people start there. And I've been reading about, just with the AI tools, the move, not so much the move away from SEO, but what's going to happen over time. And so, just as a sort of point of interest, I opened up uh, XAI or Grok, and I typed in, I need a Salesforce partner in Vancouver. And I chose Vancouver because at the time I was sitting in Vancouver. And I then repeated that with Gemini, and I also repeated it with ChatGPT. Interestingly enough, our name came up on all three, and the other
Interesting.
partners that came up were somewhat mixed. They weren't consistent across all three. So
Yeah.
I have no idea why that is. Maybe it's they've indexed off of what Google has recommended. I have no idea. I don't really understand that world well enough yet to make a comment on that. But it was interesting that you brought that up in this conversation, because it certainly is more and more people are going in the direction of the AI tools, and we're going to have to figure out how to get our name propagated well across those, not only in Vancouver but every other market that we hope to work. But maybe just coming back to the um, sort of the different avenues or paths that a prospective customer could take to find us, and I'd love to just go a little deeper here on a prospective customer. I'm going to put myself in the shoes
Sure.
of a nonprofit organization. They are not using Salesforce. They start doing their own research. They, maybe somebody's joined their organization that once used Salesforce, and they're making an internal recommendation. Maybe they've heard about it, and they're
Yeah.
now at the point where they want to start a conversation. The typical starting point is they would go to the Salesforce website. They may fill out a form. Uh, Regardless of how they interact with Salesforce, an account executive or a sales rep from Salesforce will end up reaching out. And Salesforce has a very sophisticated way of sort of connecting a prospective customer to the right account executive who can then start a conversation. And those conversations, and I mean, I've been in a sales role, Matt. I know you've been involved in selling here at Belmar and helping our customers to get to a point of decision. But one of the things I find quite interesting is uh, many customers put their well, I'd say most customers, they put their trust in Salesforce because they are going to ultimately be buying Salesforce. But what many of them don't understand when they start that down that path is they're also going to need a partner. And that individual prospect or prospective customer in that moment is puts a lot of trust in the account executive that they talk to at Salesforce, and that account executive typically has a roster of partners that they've used in the past, and the ones that have been successful they often will recommend to their future prospective customers. And so um, I guess I'd love to get your input on putting yourself in the shoes of that prospective customer and equipping them with some knowledge before they start down that path with Salesforce, what
Yeah.
they may want to consider as they're thinking about this. Who might my future partner be? How do I best evaluate? How do I even
Right.
advocate for myself as an organization when I'm talking to an account executive to say, hey, I'm coming to the table having already done some of my own research. Here's what I'm thinking. So give me your thoughts in terms of how they best navigate that.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's helpful to understand I'm going to call them evaluation criteria, if you will. Just like what are the things you're looking for? It's very similar. And the one word I'll always use when thinking about this is relationship. Because if you are looking for something quick, you're looking for something fast, you're looking for something cheap. I mean, it's very different than looking for a longer term partnership and relationship. So I think understanding first off, if you're at that point, are you looking for something quick, really quick turnaround? Are you looking for something, a longer term relationship? Not that the two can't mutually exist. But it is a bit different conversation. So let's assume that you're looking for that longer term partner here. A couple things you should really consider. One, does somebody have experience in this space? I'll give you an example in nonprofit organizations. There's a lot of similarity, but there's some very distinct nuances to an organization that's perhaps a conservation organization versus arts an arts museum. Two very different
Hmm.
terminologies, standard operating procedures, just how they interact with their constituents. It's very different. So understanding one, does this partner have experience in this space, specific experience in this space? If yes, do they have references? Do they do a good job in this space? So that's key, I think, is number one. Number two is just understanding their historic success. Are they a new partner? Are they an old partner? How big is their team? Just understanding the demographic and the makeup of that organization as well to understand, is it a fit for our organization? If I'm a nonprofit and I put on my executive director hat, I have a 5-person nonprofit. We're doing $5 million in revenue. Do I want to be working with an organization that is 100 times the size of my organization? Maybe would be one of their 1,000 projects. On the flip side, if I'm a 1,000-person organization and this organization only has 3 people there, well, I mean, you just want to try to find some mutual fit there to understand that if I need to scale, I can accommodate that scale. If I need to be able to solve complex needs, I have an organization or partner that understands that as well. Another really important element that, I mean, I'll come right out and say it, is understanding how pricing works. That is a pretty big component oftentimes, especially in the nonprofit landscape, is how do they price? What does it make sense for our organization and working with them as well? So I'd say those are 3 pretty big ones. Just calling it out from a baseline perspective, there's of course the credibility and competency standpoint, and Salesforce does a fantastic job with something called the certification that you can look on this AppExchange, which I referred to earlier, and take a look at what are the certifications of this partner. That's kind of a baseline. I'm kind of speaking about, okay, what are the other pieces that overall blend this to making the right decision? But having that baseline is also important. has this partner done projects in this space before? Are they
Hmm.
certified? That's another consideration. So those are a couple. I mean, you've been doing this a long time, Scott, too. What advice do you give to clients or prospective organizations when they're looking for a partner?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think you've covered some really important aspects. I think some advice that I would offer to, in this particular case, an organization that is looking at Salesforce for the first time, and maybe more specific, they haven't gone through a technology transformation or an implementation, a larger implementation that's required uh, a third party. If they've brought in a tool into their organization that they were able to purchase online and self-implement, that's very different from bringing in a third party that is going to work with you for some number of months. In larger projects, it could be up to a year. Uh, that it's a very different experience or relationship than just self-implementing a solution. And so you want to really be sure that the partner that you're selecting is the one that, as Matt has shared, has the technical capabilities, has the referenceable accounts, like the specific experience that is similar to the organization that you're in. But I think there's some other maybe more intangibles. So, what is what's the composition of the team that you're going to be working with? Because it's one thing to say, "Hey, I represent ABC Salesforce partner organization, and we've done 500 projects just like yours." But the people that delivered those projects may not be with that organization anymore, and the team that you're getting is not the team that has gone off and created that success for these other organizations. So it's one thing for an organization to talk about their experience. It's another thing for them to um, allow you to have an opportunity to meet the people that you're going to be working with, because it's those soft skills, more the intangibles of um, a brand has a reputation. A brand can has oftentimes a deep bench of people, but how do you get connected with the right team within that organization that's going to gel with your team, is going to understand the uniqueness of your organization, and is going to be there for the duration of the project. And so that's I think one piece. Um, and I think a way
Yeah.
to think about this further is, when you come into these conversations with Salesforce, when you come into these conversations with the partners that you're introduced to, uh, it is good to explore options. If you're only talking to a single partner, uh, may sound great, may sound like, yeah, these
Yeah.
folks can do what we
Totally.
need, but just the ability to compare and contrast and to hear different perspectives is an important thing to do. So
Hmm.
we would strongly endorse that you consider that. Um, for an existing customer, somebody who is already on Salesforce, we'll assume they've gone through an implementation before.
Yeah.
How do they evaluate? Is it the same criteria? And in response, I would argue that it is. It's your people work with people that they like, that they trust, that they feel comfortable with. The assumption, the sort of the table stakes, if you will, that you should expect is that they've got the certifications, they have the experience, they've delivered successfully some number of projects, that they've got a well-rounded set of skills, not just they've only worked on 3 projects in the past. So I would say it's the same kind of criteria that you should think about um, if you're an existing customer and you're exploring
Yeah.
uh, the next phase, and for whatever reason, the need for a new partner. So those are important things to think about.
Yeah. I want to extra highlight that fit piece because I think that's often a piece that people underestimate. You are sometimes working on multi-year projects. You want to work with a partner that you enjoy working with, but you have that trust baseline as well. because the reality is projects don't always go in a linear fashion. So being able to have somebody that you can have a conversation with, have that good trust baseline is very important. So yeah, I appreciate you drilling into that, Scott, and I think that's helpful for organizations. I think that's a good place to wrap on this one, and perhaps the next episode we chat about what happens if you don't choose the right partner. And certainly we've got some. I know we both have some stories about some of those nightmares. So
Yeah.
we'll wrap on that one, and we'll chat more about that next time. Thanks, Scott.
Okay. Thanks, man. This has been another episode of Belmar Bites, brought to you by Belmar Consulting. You can follow us on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, or on our website at belmarcloud.com.